Here to the outputs. And let's go in here. We're going to find that we have blue, gray, and yellow. Typically blue is for injectors, gray is for ignition outputs, yellow is for a high-powered output. And when we're talking about the drive-by-wire control, we're going to find that we have to control the servo motor in a plus or a minus portion of the servo motor. So we're using a half bridge to control the throttle plate to open, and then a half bridge to control the throttle plate to close. So essentially we're using a full bridge. So two half bridges make a full bridge, and we're going to be assigning that here with our yellow wires. Let's go in and set this up and take a look. So right now, we see our outputs. They're assigned to the injectors. Coil outputs, they're assigned to the ignition coils. But we have a lot of blue outputs here we can configure. So taking a look at this, we see our blue output 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We can see we can assign all this. Now, let's look here where things are assigned. So I'm going to jump in. I've assigned my blue for my thermo fan or the cooling fan. Let's go and do that right here. So we're going to type in here it's going to be a thermatic or thermo fan, cooling fan. Let's click OK here. Now it's selected on another output. We'll just click yes and take it off of whatever that other output's going to be. Now what we can do is test this functionality. If I go here and click the little lightning bolt, that's going to allow me to actually test the circuit and energize it. So I don't know if you're able to hear that. I can hear the fan actually turning on when I test it. So I know the fan's working. So that circuit's good. The wiring is good. Let's take a look at our output 6. Our output 6 is going to be assigned, in this case, to fuel pump. So we definitely want a fuel pump control. So we're going to type in here fuel and then pump, and we can see it pulls up here. Click OK. And we'll click yes here. So what we're going to find is if we test this out, we might have to actually write to the ECU to test this. Let's give that a second here. Sometimes when we do make changes, we do have to actually do the write for it to take place. I don't know exactly why the thermofan was functioning when I tested it, but let's see if the fuel pump's going to work now. So doing this, nothing is happening here. However, this may be a problem because we haven't set up the main relay yet. The main relay control is going to be what turns on the power distribution through the car and through the engine harness that would allow the fuel pump to actually turn on through that relay assembly. So the main relay is kind of the main control of everything. That's what's going to be assigned here for the blue output 7. Let's go back in here. Let's assign that first. So main relay has to actually be assigned. We're going to go to blue output 7, and if I type in here timed main relay, click OK. Now here, I can actually hear that main relay clicking when I'm doing this right here. So we can actually hear that toggling on. Let's try the fuel pump now. The fuel pump's still not working. However, if we go up here, and when we turn on our options here, things will appear into our other function section. If we go here to timed main relay, let's set this to, we see there's always enabled, so that should be good. Activate it 0 volt, so that's good. So our settings here should be fine in terms of just allowing this to function like a main relay. So we turn the ignition key off, turns off the main relay, depowers everything, turn the ignition key back on. It powers up everything in the distribution, and it should work. Let's look at our fuel pump settings. We should find that this is also going to be correct. So we see it's a timed output. Activation time is our prime time, how long when we turn the key on it primes for, 3.5 seconds is fine. Output signal is 0 volt. We're low side, sending out a signal to control the fuel pump. So that should be okay. Let's just go ahead and save this real quick. So the fuel pump should be functional because that's where I have it documented, but I don't hear that priming. So again, yeah, fuel pump is number 6. Let's just take a look back here. Now what we might have to do is actually key cycle the power to our box here, to the Fuel Tech. So let's go ahead and power cycle that down. Let's go ahead and power cycle that up. Now I still don't hear the fuel pump enabling, which is interesting. We see the fuel pressure is not moving. So we may have a problem there. I might have to go back in and just double check that maybe a pin popped out of the connector and verify that functionality. Let's just go back in here to outputs. So again, fuel pump, yep, thermofan, fuel pump, timed main relay. And again, I'm clicking this and I'm not getting any functionality of that. All right, so let's move on. We'll have to come back to the fuel pump because we can't start it until the fuel pump works. We build fuel pressure. I'll have to just triple check that circuit and verify that everything is 100%. Let's move on here and to take a look at their other outputs. And the gray wire, our gray number 5 is assigned to the VVT solenoid. That's controlling the solenoid in a low side pulse width modulated output. We'll go here to our gray output 5. I just clicked on that. And we type in here VVT. We have intake, variable camshaft. This is controlling the solenoid to pulse with modulate the solenoid to drive the oil pressure through the variable cam to allow the cam gear to rotate one way or another. So we're going to go ahead and select OK here. And we can see it's going to force it to be reassigned. You can see this feature is recommended as a yellow or blue output. Check the instruction manual for specifics of how to use this on a gray output. We might have to reassign that. This technically should work. I might have to just move this over to a blue output. So if I test it here, I don't actually hear it click, but usually we can't hear it click. So I might have to reassign this. But this is where I had it actually wired when I was doing all the pinning. So I might have to actually switch that out because it's recommending a blue output. All right, let's go here. Gray, we're not using our TAC output. Let's just set that to none. Make sure that's off. And let's go ahead and just write that to the ECU real quick. Let's go back and we'll take a look at our yellow output wires that we have to work with here. So give that a second to load. All right, let's look at our list here. Now in the yellow, our VTEC is going to be our yellow number 1. Then we have our yellow 3 and 4. That's going to be drive-by-wire servo plus, drive-by-wire servo motor negative. There's a plus and a negative, positive and a negative on the servo motor control. I've assigned the plus to number 3 output, and number 4 should be drive-by-wire servo negative. Now, when we assign this, we can actually take a look here. It looks like this map, when we started off with, it defaulted it to our outputs 3 and 4. This is what Fuel Tech recommends to run for controlling the throttle body, and specifically 1A, 1B. So what we find is with the drive-by-wire servo control, there's that plus servo option to control the motor to open. That would be our 1A. And then number 4 here is assigned to 1B. That's our negative. That's actually going to be going in the opposite way to pull the throttle shut. So we have both ways of control of the throttle plate. And that as assigned to 3 and 4. But number 1 here, we need to go and assign that to VTEC. Let's grab that, click OK. And we've assigned that to VTEC. Now we want to go in here real quick to the outputs. Just take a look at our VTEC control. And we want to make sure the output activation here is activated at 12 volt or a high side output. That's the reason why we're using a yellow wire for the VTEC control. So we can directly drive and control the VTEC solenoid. We'll find the VTEC solenoid grounds itself to the cylinder head, which is grounded to the block. Then we provide a 12 volt on the green-yellow wire. That's the single trigger wire to turn VTEC on. Pretty simple to configure this, but we want to make sure that the output configuration or activation is correct in terms of what we're sending out. Looking at the fuel pump again, we're sending a 0 volt timed thermofan. You can see engine temp, on-off control, activate at 0 volt. We can see our turn on, turn off point. Let's say 190, we turn it on, 185, we turn it off. We're just kind of taking a look at some of our settings in here for the actual control for things that we've just set up. So we do see flex fuel is toggled on here, and there's a whole bunch of different details. We'll cover that in the next training module. Time to main relay, again, activate at 0 volt. So everything looks good for the output configuration, just that fuel pump. And now it's working. I've noticed with the Fuel Tech, it's definitely a little bit strange. When we assign certain things, sometimes it doesn't seem like it's working. And we save and we write to the Fuel Tech, and all of a sudden a feature or function starts to work. I was sure I wired this right, which is why I was a little bit confused when I was trying that before. Now the fuel pump's priming, you should be able to clearly hear that. So very interesting. I don't know what changed, and I don't know why it has that odd behavior. Main relay, looking at this, if I'm trying to test the main relay control, nothing's happening. There's no clicking in the main relay, simply because it's already latched on right now and powering up. So as soon as the ignition key's powered on, the Fuel Tech powers on, it'll immediately apply and it'll hold that main relay on. Again, testing this doesn't do anything, doesn't make any change. And the VTEC here, if we go in, I can actually hear very minor clicking through the firewall as I'm clicking this on and off. It's probably hard to hear in the audio, but I can hear a very faint clicking. So I know the VTEC solenoid's functional. So everything here should work, even the throttle motor.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.